Hi everybody, it's Mr. Pyle, and this is extra. This is actually, I guess we could say, an oral speaking through the individual presentation number 2 for our class, ethos, pathos, and logos. This is the last individual presentation that we'll be doing, and for this one, there's a couple changes. Number one, you won't be reciting your speech from your text that you'll be composing. You'll be reciting it from memory, although there is a small asterisk available at the end of the sheet that deals a little bit with that. But we're asking you students to memorize a speech between 4 to 5 minutes. And this speech, both the type speech and the speeches, begin Wednesday, June 11th, 2014. Wednesday, June 11th. So that looks like it's during week 7. We'll probably spend week 7 and week 8 on these presentations. So we got a few different objectives here for the speeches. Number one, we're allowing students to synthesize, meaning bringing together information about any creative or interesting topic of their choosing. This, of course, is intrapersonal communication. We are applying the power of persuasion with any argument of your choosing. We're framing that argument specifically for ethos, pathos, and logos. We also want students to produce an MLA formatted, well-written speech that serves as the basis of what you plan to speak or present on. Although the speech does not have to be word for word, exactly it is written on the page, it should be, very close, meaning the same topics are covered, etc. And then number 4, perhaps most importantly, the most demonstrating proper professional delivery of the type script in giving the speech. So we want, having gone through the how to give a good presentation, we want students to try to apply and practice through rehearsing a very good demonstration of their knowledge of an opinion or a topic combined with ethos, pathos, and logos. So the official, what we're looking for officially here is, once again, a 4 to 5 minute speech. It can be any argument, any opinion, any item, or any premise, meaning starting point, that the student wants to share with the class. Now, the argument can be either a light argument, meaning something that most people would say is, I don't want to say silly, but let's say not tremendously controversial or important. So it can be a very light argument. For example, the idea of keeping the internet use for free and open for all people, the net neutrality versus otherwise, etc. Or the argument can be very heavy, something like, I'd say, the death penalty or abortion, legalization of marijuana. These are topics that students do like to pick, although I will say that it's very difficult to, within only 4 to 5 minutes, to cover all the angles of these particular arguments. So you want to pick any kind of argument or opinion and frame that argument into 3 distinct parts of the speech. You'll have an ethos part of the speech, you'll have a pathos part of the speech, and you'll also have a logos part of the speech. We've given you some room to define here. Ethos, of course, is one's credibility. It's making a persuasive opinion using credibility. Pathos is making an argument that relies very heavily on emotion. And logos is making an argument that deals with logic, meaning facts and figures. So if, for example, I've come up with this opinion, this is really an opinion, and of course an argument is just one stated opinion. And therefore, when I suggest that American society does not treat animals well, that is an argument that I could take and develop evidence to present that would fit into ethos. I could develop and present a part that will deal with pathos and also logos as well. So once you brainstorm and decide whatever topic, and once again, this is just a sample topic, then you want to build evidence for each of the 3 ethos, pathos, and logos. Now, the speech is, you will have a thesis of the speech, and one's thesis will be very simply what your topic is, combined with the idea that you plan to present this argument broken down into the 3 modes of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos. That is a solid thesis. Thesis always needs to be present, whether one is writing or speaking right up front. We need that thesis. All right, the argument itself can be very easily constructed on the page using the very simple five paragraph format. So a student will have an introduction, they'll have an ethos section, they'll have a pathos section, and they'll have a logos section. In one's introduction, we always begin with any speech, really formal or informal. Here's who I am, and here's why I'm speaking to you. Here's who I am, here's why I'm speaking to you. There is room in the introduction to help set the stage for the topic. So, for example, if I were planning to, my thesis is America does not treat animals well, perhaps I talk about the idea that I've been an animal lover my whole life, the fact that I've had upwards of 4 pets, 2 dogs, and a cat, and that animals really were always considered part of my family. Animals, to me, can show emotions and love, and there's chemicals that are released in my body when I pet and baby talk to my dog Sophie, etc. So there is room to personalize. Really, in the introduction, it's good to help set the stage as the relationship between the speaker and the topic. So why or how is this topic important to you as a person, etc. We are looking for a concrete, specific thesis. So once again, in the case of my example, therefore, America, I feel, does not treat animals well in the United States, and I will be framing or promoting my opinion using ethos, pathos, and logos. That's a very concrete thesis. Under ethos, basically, the ethos, and once again, for ethos, pathos, and logos, these can apply to both the speaker and to the topic. And here's what I mean by that. So, for example, if I suggest that animals aren't treated well in the United States, it may be worthy to ethos wise for myself, credibility wise, to state I'm a vegetarian and I've been a vegetarian since 1984. So I'm approaching 30 years of vegetarianism. Otherwise, if I'm promoting, health and good well-being for animals in the United States, somebody might be able to say, "Well, don't you eat steak?" And therefore my credibility will go down. So in this case, the ethos that I might want to present would be on myself as a speaker, but I could also talk about the ethos of all Americans in general as well. So, bits of evidence that I might decide to put in my speech. The fact that as humans, we have tremendous power over animals. We actually control much of their lives, etc. The Gandhi quote, Gandhi, the famous philosopher and activist, that somebody can judge a country by how well or not so well that they treat animals, etc. The fact that when we eat a hamburger, it looks very little like a cow. It's so far removed from its source that it takes us away from what actually. Anyway, I'm actually delivering the speech myself. But anyway, we do want to use topic sentences throughout the entire speech. And what I mean by that is in one's ethos section, we want only the ethos. We want only material that's in the category of ethos. So when I would use a topic sentence in my speech, I would say, the first way I plan to convince you all that Americans do not treat animals well is through ethos. Ethos, as we all know, is credibility, and here's some evidence that I'd like to present in the matter of ethos, etc. So I'm setting up the fact that I'm dealing only with ethos. Now that I've told you about the ethos section and all this evidence, blah, 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 certainly emotions or pathos has to do a lot with animals as well, and here's my pathos section of my speech, blah, 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 blah. Lastly, what's a good argument without facts and figures? Here's some facts and figures that really suggest that we don't treat animals well. In Cook County alone, 1 million dogs a year are put to death, blah, blah, blah. So that's my logo section there. In the conclusion, one really restates the thesis. Also, it's a good chance to put what we call in here a call to action, where we specifically invite somebody to do something. A call to action is when we give the people the information and then we say, well, now here's what I want you to do with the information I've just told you. Now, the speech needs to be exactly 4 to 5 minutes in length. I put 4 to 5 minutes because I want people to practice and rehearse their speech. I find that by putting 4 to 5 minute window on here, so 4:01 is on time, 4:59 is on time, 3:58 gets a penalty of 1.5 letter grade, and 5 minutes and 30 seconds gets a penalty off the grade as well. So we want folks to hit between this. Now, if you've got a great idea and you can say, Pyle, listen, I can't this would be through an email you'd write me, but you might write, Pyle, I can't get everything I want to say great about animals in only 4 to 5 minutes. Therefore, allow me to go between 5.5 minutes and 6.5 minutes, for example. So you can choose to have a different time as long as it's A, longer, and B, is a 1 minute window. The emails do have to arrive to me before the class starts, so you won't be able to stand up in front of the class and go, oh, by the way, I'm going to go over 6 minutes, etc. All right, once again, here's moving on here. The topic sentence. A topic sentence is the thesis of the paragraph. We'd like specific topic sentences both in the writing of the speech and the presenting of the speech. The topic sentences allows us as listeners and viewers to know that you're about to enter, for example, a logo section of your speech. A topic sentence is, so now I'd like to use facts and figures, i.e. logos, to help sell my point of why animals are not treated well in the United States, etc. You want to mention the idea, the topic that you choose is important, but it's almost not as important as the idea of applying ethos, pathos, and logos. And by what I mean by this is that we are looking for these buzzwords, three modes of persuasion, ethos, pathos, and logos, ethos, credibility, pathos, emotion. We want to hear these words over and over again. These are the important words that a student wants to repeat all through their speech. Want to remind us of your thesis, the fact that you are selling an argument using these three modes of persuasion. Make sure you rehearse your speech, once again, 4 to 5 minutes. Try to do as many of effective speech practices from our How to Give a Good presentation as possible. Ums and ahs, very specifically, avoid those by practicing. The more memorized your speech is, the more rehearsed you are, the less likely one is to say ums and ahs. Remember, you get to choose the topic of the speech, allow it to work for you by allowing it to be something important to you, or you really want to sell the argument and share the argument with the speech or with the other students. Remember, your argument can be heavy or light, light meaning very entertaining or funny, something not too serious. I've heard a student, I remember, for example, argued that the Three Stooges versus the Three Stooges were much better than the Marx Brothers in a speech. So the comedians, this obviously is a very light topic. The three modes of persuasion can be applied to both the subject and the speaker. So once again, what you could talk about your own credibility and the credibility of others, or lack of credibility for the others in the ethos. If you do use facts and statistics for your logo section, make sure you orally cite the source of where you're getting the information comes from. Now, we understand that there may be term overlap, and by this, I mean that when I say 2 million dogs are put to death in Cook County, we get emotional the fact that a dog is dead. So that's a little bit of pathos and it's a little bit of logos. But as much as possible, we want very distinct organization of the categories. Now, both the speeches, the type speeches, and the sign-up sheet, meaning when we start, are due Wednesday, June 11th. If you, whether you go on your speech that day or not, the type speech is still due. I'll do the grammar service. If a student wants to use a note card, you can. However, it must be typed, meaning no handwritten note cards. You can do a 3x5 card. Make sure that you do blah blah essay. You follow MLA format to a T. I'm looking to reduce the whole paper double spaced only this time. Don't miss your spot. Remember, there's a 1.5 letter grades off missed spots. We only allow twice, and this entire ethos, pathos, logos speech is worth 10% of the overall grade, a full letter grade. Now, you'll also be evaluating other people, both good things that you witness and also the potential needs improvement things as well. I've only got 15 seconds to wrap up, so I'll say thanks a lot for listening and email me with any more questions, and see you in class.